Okay, so imagine this. You look up at the moon tonight,
Yeah.
right? And you realize, wow, we're actually planning to go back, like properly back, not just, flags and footprints for a bit.
Yeah, not just a quick visit. We're talking about staying.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this massive amount of money involved, like $93 billion.
93 billion. It's kind of staggering. And that's really what we want to unpack for you today, this whole story.
Exactly. Because, for ages, space focus was elsewhere, wasn't it? Low Earth orbit, Mars probes.
Right.
But now there's this huge return to lunar ambition.
Mm-hmm.
And the goals, well, they're way bigger than Apollo ever was.
Definitely. We've been digging into some really interesting stuff for this. There's a great breakdown on YouTube from Futurology about this $93 billion plan.
Saw that one. Very detailed.
Yeah, and also a podcast script excerpt that really gets into the why now. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. Figure out what's driving this, what the plan looks like, and, why should you care?
Okay, let's jump in. And maybe the first thing to grasp is how different this is from Apollo. The iconic images, Armstrong, Aldrin.
Planting the flag, yeah.
Right. But Artemis, that's the program name, Apollo's twin sister, nice touch. Right. It's got a much, much longer game in mind.
That really is the core difference, isn't it? Apollo was, well, it was the Cold War, a race. Get there, prove you can do it.
And once they did, 6 landings between 69 and 72, the funding, the political will.
Yeah.
It sort of faded.
It did. But Artemis feels different. It feels like building something, like laying groundwork for, living off-world.
Precisely. Look at the stated goals. They want to land the first woman and the first person of color on the moon. That's huge in itself.
Yeah, symbolically very powerful.
But then they're talking about setting up a permanent base camp. Maybe eventually Moon Base Alpha, something like that.
Moon Base Alpha. Love it.
And critically, using the moon as a launch pad, basically.
Yeah.
A stepping stone for getting humans to Mars.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. It's not just NASA's show this time.
No, not at all. It's really global. There's this whole coalition, loads of countries signing up to the Artemis Accords.
Right, I saw the list. Australia, Canada, Japan, the UK, UAE, Italy.
Luxembourg. Even Luxembourg is in on the action.
Yeah.
The video mentioned, 25 nations had signed on already?
Yeah, something like that. So these Artemis Accords, they're like the rule book for playing nice on the moon.
Sort of, yeah. It's about peaceful, cooperative exploration. Trying to avoid, the kind of tensions that drove the first space race. A different vibe.
And it's not just countries. The private sector involvement is massive this time around.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, NASA's actually contracting them to build the hardware. A lot of it.
That feels like a real shift. NASA acting more like a customer, maybe.
In some ways, yeah. It leverages all that commercial innovation, the drive for cost effectiveness. It's a different model. A game changer, really.
Okay, let's talk hardware then, because some of this stuff sounds wild.
Yeah.
The Space Launch System, SLS, NASA's calling it their most powerful rocket ever.
And it is. I mean, it's enormous.
Yeah.
You've got that huge core stage from Boeing.
Uh-huh.
And those 2 massive, solid rocket boosters strapped to the sides from Northrop Grumman. They provide something like, over 80% of the thrust just getting off the ground? Insane power.
Just raw power. The video really showed that liftoff.
Yeah.
Incredible. And then there's the upper stage.
Right, the bid by United Launch Alliance.
Yeah.
That gives the Orion spacecraft the final push it needs to actually get heading towards the moon. The translunar injection burn.
Translunar injection, got it. So that's a kick that sends it on its way. And this initial version, Block 1, is the first few Artemis missions.
That's the plan. But they're already looking ahead. There's a Block 1B coming with a beefier upper stage, the exploration upper stage.
Also Boeing.
Also Boeing, yeah. That'll let them haul more cargo, more equipment to the moon, and eventually maybe even a Block 2 with upgraded boosters. It's iterative.
Like getting bigger and bigger trucks for the trip.
Exactly. More payload capacity each time.
Okay, then there's the ship the astronauts actually travel in, Orion. Lockheed Martin builds the capsule.
And the European Space Agency, ESA, through Airbus, provides the service module. That's vital.
The service module, that's like the engine room and life support?
Pretty much, yeah. Propulsion, power, water, air. Everything the crew needs in deep space packed into that module behind the capsule. This is a really key European contribution.
And then the bit everyone wants to see landing on the moon, the Human Landing System, HLS.
Right, and this is where that commercial partnership really shines. NASA ran a competition.
And SpaceX won the first round, right, with Starship.
Exactly. Starship HLS is slated for Artemis 3 and 4. It's a huge, ambitious vehicle, needs refueling in Earth orbit even before it hits to the moon.
Refueling in orbit, that's
Right.
a whole other level of complex.
It is. But NASA's also hedging its bets, which is smart. They've got another program, LET's Lunar Exploration Transportation Services.
Right.
And that's funding companies like Blue Origin and Dynetics to develop alternative, sustainable landers for the longer term.
So competition and backup options. Makes sense.
Definitely. Drives innovation, keeps costs potentially lower, and gives you redundancy. You don't want all your eggs in one basket for something this critical.
Makes total sense. And we haven't even mentioned the Gateway yet, the space station orbiting the moon.
Ah, yes. Gateway. That's another really cool futuristic piece of the puzzle. It won't orbit close like the ISS does around Earth, but in a special orbit, a near rectilinear halo orbit, or NRHO.
NRHO sounds complicated.
It's just a very stable, efficient orbit way out there. Gateway will act as a staging post, a waypoint.
For lunar landings,
And
maybe Mars trips later.
that's the idea. The first bits, the Halo Habitat module from Northrop Grumman and the power and propulsion element from Maxar, they're supposed to launch, maybe later this year?
Wow, okay. And it's designed to grow, right? Like the ISS.
Exactly. The video mentioned future modules coming from Europe and Japan.
Rihab, yeah. And a Canadian robotic arm, Canadarm3.
Right, building on their shuttle and ISS experience. And another European module, Esprit, with communications and potentially an airlock for spacewalks in lunar orbit.
So step by step, building an outpost way out there.
It's fascinating how it all connects. SLS launches Orion. Orion flies maybe to Gateway. Astronauts transfer to a lander like Starship, go down to the surface, come back up, maybe back to Orion via Gateway, and then home.
It's a complex dance, a logistical ballet in space.
It really is. But stepping back, you see the picture, right? It's not flags and footprints this time.
No, it's infrastructure. It's like going from just exploring Antarctica to actually building Scott Base or McMurdo Station, setting up shop.
That's a perfect analogy. And that leads right into the big question. Why? Why now? Why spend $93 billion on this return ticket?
Yeah, after almost 50 years, what changed? What's the big pull?
Well, the sources point to a few key things.
Yeah.
Maybe the biggest one is water. Water ice.
On the moon.
Yeah, significant amounts apparently discovered, especially hiding in permanently shadowed craters near the South Pole, which is exactly where Artemis 3 is targeting.
Okay, water is life, obviously. But why is it such a game changer for space stuff?
Because H2O is, it's hydrogen and oxygen. Rocket fuel.
Ah. So you could potentially make rocket fuel on the moon?
That's the dream. Imagine launching a mission to Mars. Instead of hauling all the fuel for the entire round trip from Earth, which is incredibly heavy and expensive.
You top up the tank at the moon gas station.
Exactly. The podcast script we saw threw out a figure, maybe hypothetical, but it gives you the scale. It said maybe a Mars mission cost could drop from like $10 billion down to $2 billion if you can refuel at the moon.
10 down to 2. Okay, that's revolutionary if they can pull it off. And obviously, water for drinking, breathing air.
Life support, yeah.
Yeah.
Essential for any kind of long-term base.
So water's a huge one. What else?
Other resources, too. The moon dust, the regolith, it contains useful metals, titanium, for instance, and some rarer stuff.
Like helium-3. I remember hearing about that.
Helium-3. It's rare on Earth, deposited on the moon by the solar wind over billions of years, and it's seen as a potential fuel for future, cleaner nuclear fusion reactors.
Fusion power. The holy grail.
Pretty much. And it's interesting, China has explicitly mentioned lunar helium-3 mining as a long-term goal. Platinum group metals, too, potentially.
So there are serious potential economic drivers here, looking way down the road. Energy, materials.
Could be. Plus, the science. The moon hasn't had geological activity like Earth. Its surface is ancient, billions of years of solar system history locked in the dust.
A time capsule.
Exactly. And imagine putting a big telescope on the far side of the moon. No atmosphere to blur the view, no Earth radio interference. You could see deeper into the universe than ever before.
Okay, so science, resources.
Yeah.
What about, like, politics, strategy?
Well, that seems to be a major factor, too. You can't ignore the fact that we're kind of in a new space race, right?
Feels like it sometimes. China's lunar program is advancing fast. They're talking about a joint base with Russia by 2035.
India landed Chandrayaan-3 near the South Pole recently. Japan's got missions, the UAE. It's a much more crowded field than it was in the 60s.
Even Luxembourg, you mentioned, has space mining ambitions. It's not just the superpowers anymore.
No. So establishing a foothold, demonstrating capability, securing access, There's definitely a strategic angle. Being there matters.
And again, the private companies play into this, SpaceX especially.
Hugely. Their whole model is built around lowering launch costs dramatically. That podcast excerpt highlighted the massive difference in estimated costs per launch between Starship and SLS.
Right. Which makes these ambitious long-term plans seem, well, maybe more achievable financially.
I think so. The innovation and cost-effectiveness from the commercial side are critical enablers. NASA picking Starship for the first landings is proof of that reliance.
And you have to think, if Starship works for the moon, Elon Musk isn't shy about saying Mars is the real goal.
Not at all. The moon serves as perhaps the perfect practice run, testing the hardware, the procedures, the long-duration systems you need for an even longer trip to Mars.
So it all weaves together. Long-term science, valuable resources, global strategy, and this powerful boost from private innovation. That's the why now.
It seems to be that combination. Yeah. It's complex, but it creates a compelling case for this huge investment.
You know, thinking about all this, that podcast script mentioned something really evocative. Astronaut Harrison Schmitt during Apollo 17.
Oh, yeah, the geologist.
Right. He found this tiny rock fragment. Turns out it was likely a piece of Earth blasted off by an ancient asteroid impact that eventually traveled all the way to the moon and landed there. A little blue marble fragment on the gray surface.
Oh, I remember reading about that. A piece of home found millions of miles away.
Exactly. And it makes you think, doesn't it? As we go back, maybe to stay this time, what part of humanity are we taking with us? Is it going to be driven by our best impulses, cooperation, discovery, pushing boundaries together, or is it going to reflect our worst? Competition, conflict over resources, planting flags in a different way.
The moon is a mirror. That's a powerful thought. Which path will we choose as we step out there again?
Something to ponder, definitely. It's an incredible new chapter unfolding right above us.
It really is. Worth keeping an eye on Artemis for sure.
Absolutely. So stay curious, keep looking up, and maybe think about what that little blue rock really means for our future out there.